What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on this live stream today. It has been a bit, but I am super excited to be here today because it is for a absolutely awesome cause. If you haven't heard about it in my newsletter or in the Discord, I am donating funds. I am raising funds for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. You can see the link in the description of this live, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Twitter. Have a very, very small campaign goal that we're starting with here, raising funds throughout the entirety of September. These guys at Relay FM, who are a podcast company, always raise money around this time. They've raised over $2 million over the last couple of years. And every September, I do a sub campaign for them where I raise money, under their brand, and all of it goes to St. Jude. And like I said, they've raised over $2 million so far. So that's what I am here for today. And I'm here to talk about learning guitar because I have a really, really, really cool thing that's been on my mind for the last couple of weeks that I think you're going to want to hear when it comes to guitar and really making it stick, understanding how to learn guitar and actually learn at a good pace and keep that stuff in your memory. So yeah, let's kind of get into it. Over the past couple weeks, I have been learning Italian, and I know you're saying what the heck does that have to do with learning guitar? But it's actually the biggest premise of today's live stream because I've been learning Italian, and if I'm going to get it out of the way right at the beginning here, if you want to skip off the live stream right now, the biggest secret of learning guitar or learning anything really is immersion in that subject. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. So just immersion in the subject. I didn't write anything down for this, but that kind of was part of it. I just wanted to think of all the different things that I've been doing for Italian and kind of apply that over here to guitar. Because I've been learning guitar for over 20 years at this point, and I've seen what's worked, I've seen what doesn't work, and now getting into Italian and learning something especially a new language for the first time, I've had to think about how I would learn a whole new subject that's a huge subject that can take you years and years and years to learn. You might never learn it completely, just like the guitar. So immersion in the subject is key, and I think there's a lot of different things that you can do. First and foremost, I think you need some sort of online presence in your life for learning, and that could be like an online learning platform, something like Pickup Music or TrueFire or JTC Guitar, whatever level you're at. All of those places and more have really, really good courses to get you started, and that's just part of it, right? Like being able to learn stuff like chords and scales and all that stuff, and songs, of course, is super duper important. But there's more than that. So, having a place where you can go, kind of look at the type of lesson that you're interested in that day, and then go forward is important. Another thing I think is really important is to be able to have some sort of actual real life teacher, whether that be a teacher that you're working with online, some remote lesson, or it's a teacher that you go to in person. Now, I'm a teacher myself, but I think that's really important because that teacher will help guide you because they've been through all this stuff before, right? A lot of the online platforms are good. They have a lot of content, but only so many of them have a learning path so you can understand, what should I learn first? A lot of people, when they're learning something new, don't even know what they don't know. They don't know where to start and what they should actually learn that's going to take them the farthest in their journey for guitar. So I think it's good to have an online platform. I think it's good to have a teacher and kind of go to them for guidance. Another thing you could do is, we're talking about immersion today. So we're talking about, anything that you could do to push yourself along will be good. So not only do you need to put in the work on guitar, actually do the practice, but there are other ways that can help you learn guitar that are not entirely just practice related, but they're almost considered what I would call passive practice, right? So We have a Discord channel. I've been running it for a couple years right now. There's a lot of good guys in there. That could be another way to learn because it's entirely free. You join a good community, and if you have a question, there's lots of people in there that can help out and offer their expertise on guitar. I've been kind of doing that with Italian. There's this app that I've been using where you can speak with native speakers, and the cool thing about that is you can help other people with your native language, and they can help you with their native language. And the Discord is kind of like that too, right? Like if a person's gonna reach out to you and ask you a question, no matter what stage they are in guitar, you might actually be able to learn something from them as well. You never know. I think after teaching so many different students, I've found that I've learned a lot from students who are advanced all the way down to a beginner. You just re-go over things that you learned a long time ago, and sometimes you might learn something new that you had forgotten or might not have done at the beginning of learning guitar. So that's another thing. Jump into the Discord and just kind of ask questions and see who can help you. The other thing I would say is, and this is what I've been learning in learning Italian, is really learn how to get rid of some of that time, which is just consumption time, or turn it into like better consumption time. So what I mean is, for me, rather than watching Netflix or something like that, I'm watching something like maybe a show on YouTube and like trying to look at the captions in English and then look at them in Italian to try to learn that way. Another thing you could do is just download one of the millions of apps for guitar that are available right now, that are out there, that can teach you stuff like scales and chords, rather than just doom scrolling on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days. What you can do is, take out one of those apps and make your dead time or your free time a lot more productive with what you're trying to learn. Another thing you could do is get books. I mean, I'm such a huge guy for getting books because I feel like they're such a cheap investment that have so much information for you, whether that be stuff from Fundamental Changes, whether that be stuff from Guitar Vivo or any of these other brands out there. Even if it's a tab book of your favorite band, getting guitar books is a huge, huge win. And again, just replacing that dead social media time with something like that can really, really help you. The other thing I've been doing, and this is like one of the biggest ones here, would be writing it down. My boss actually got me this book. But just writing down different things for guitar, right? This is for Italian, but just writing different things of guitar, and kind of making what they call like a commonplace book, which is a book where you can take ideas from all over the place, your own ideas and ideas from other people, and make this thing called like a commonplace book. So what that would be is, you learn a cool riff, and you don't have to do this physically, but I think there's something cool about writing it down physically, and then, it kind of like gets etched in your brain a little bit better when you write it down. So anyway, commonplace book. Let's say you see a cool lick from Joe Bonamassa and you want to write that down. So that's doing a couple things. It's getting into your brain. You're trying to transcribe it, number one, really, and you're playing it. So that and you can come back to that. Same thing if there's a chord that you really like and you haven't played it before, write that down, and then don't just write it down. Like, you want to take it to the next level. So let's say you're just starting out and you're like, man, I already know A minor, I already know A major chord, but I really want to learn what an A seventh chord is. Not only should you learn the shape of that, but you should try to learn the shape of it all over the neck, and then you should try to learn how that chord is constructed, because that is the way, if you're learning triads and stuff above triads, that's the only way that you're going to understand, how you can move all that stuff around the fretboard. So that's the whole commonplace book aspect of it. It's kind of like your main book to capture everything that you're into. Now, if you do this in a digital form, if you don't feel like writing it down, That's another thing that you can do. When you're standing in line at the grocery store, you can just kind of like take a look at your phone and see what you captured, and then try to like remember that stuff again. Like the more times you see it, the more like spaced repetition there is of seeing that information, the more it actually will get into your brain. So we have online lessons, we have a teacher, we have commonplace book, we have trying to pick out different things. Something to tag along for that is if you are looking to learn a technique like a bend, or you want to practice your bends, I always like to try to combine it with something else, and I always like to try to bring it out from a song. So, let's say you want to work on tapping, and you're into Metallica, and you're really into One, which I feel like is one of the biggest solos that a lot of shred guys get started with, right? Is Kirk Hammett's solo in One. Not only can you learn tapping there, but you can also learn that lick and kind of get the mechanics under your fingers, and then have that song in your back pocket for when you want to play it with a band, which kind of leads me into my next topic, which would be, if you really want to make this stuff stick, because that's the whole point of today's live stream, right? Is not only we're learning guitar, but we're trying to get it to actually stick, and we're not just trying to forget that information. There's one thing to be said about learning all these different chords and scales. You're like, yeah, I got all the shapes down, and it's like, okay, but do you really know, like, if you're gonna play with a band, what you're gonna, what you're really gonna try to work on here? Are you really gonna sound like you're fitting in with the band? Are you listening to the rest of the band? So jamming with friends, I think, is another huge component of making stuff stick. If you don't have that right away, you can kind of get away with going on YouTube and checking out some backing tracks. But one of the biggest ways to make things stick is to make sure that whatever you're learning, as soon as you got that base shape and you have like some of the understanding of the theory down, is to try to take that information and apply it over a backing track or with a band as soon as possible, because you very quickly find out what works and what doesn't work. I remember growing up and thinking I was hot learning all the pentatonic shapes, and then I would go and play, and the chord progression wouldn't have some of the notes in the pentatonic, and I was clashing with it, or it just sounded boring. It didn't sound like I was hitting the right notes all the time. So that's why, even for me, somebody who's played for so long, I've been working on, hitting target notes and like really understanding the chord progressions to try to sound like I'm hitting all the right notes, like stuff like the third or the fifth of a chord, or if I'm playing modally and I'm in mixolydian, I'm like really trying to target the note that makes that special. So again, there's one thing that is to be said for learning chords, learning shapes, but learning the theory and then actually applying that over backing tracks, like day in and day out, is important. Another way to make things stick is, if you are playing the same sort of shapes, is to kind of give yourself some sort of like limitations when you're playing. And we kind of talked about this a little bit when we were talking about that book called The Advancing Guitarist, which is a fantastic book. I think it's about $20. You should definitely go pick it up. It's a great book. One of my favorite guitar books of all time. But there's a lot of different things that the book goes through. It doesn't really hold your hand a lot. But one of the things that it does make you do is think about guitar in a different way. Rather than playing just, up and down the neck vertically, he also wants you to play up and down the neck horizontally. So, you at the beginning of the book, you're even going down to one string, maybe starting with the low E string and just trying to understand scales across the strings that way. So that's another thing, just limiting yourself and trying to break out of shapes that your hands, your muscle memory has played so many different times. So trying to think of what else I've been doing in regards to Italian. Oh, another way, this is another one in terms of like passive learning that will help you out. Again, there's so many other things you could be doing, right? Like for me too, like I'm the first one to have to heed my own advice here. Like, I'll admit it. I've been playing a whole lot of Starfield lately, and a whole lot of Baldur's Gate, the new NBA game, all sorts of games. So But it's all about like understanding, that you're doing that and then trying to get away from that every once in a while, to make your progress better. So, another thing is listening to podcasts, right? So it might sound, like why, okay, you're just listening to a podcast, but so many of these really great podcasts, like, what do I like? No Guitar is Safe, the Chasing Tone podcast with the guys over at Wampler Pedals. Who else do I like? Oh, the new podcast with Chris Shiflett is really, really good, where he kind of like gets big guitarists on and deconstructs a solo of theirs. That's been really good. There's a lot of them out there. Some of them are, don't do episodes as often, but there's a lot of them out there. So for me, learning Italian, I'm just trying to start with some of these, like, there's a couple that are like news in slow Italian or like Italian for beginners. I think any of that stuff is good rather than like listen to something like the news or have to deal with all this, stuff about politics, which is, I don't know that that's adding anything to your life. If you're really trying to learn something, try to get as much information about it, and podcast is another way to do that. So we talked about lessons. We talked about lessons like online with a teacher, writing stuff down, commonplace book, podcasts, playing with a band. If you're watching this either live or if you're watching this down the road and you have other ways that you've thought to make things stick in regards to regards to guitar, definitely put them in the comments. Or if you're watching this again on Twitter, reply to me and let me know what's worked for you. But that's a lot of different ways. I just think, getting immersed into that culture of guitar and trying to go all in. We talked about Discord too, just getting help, and trying to offer help to other people who are just starting out, I think is really important. One of the biggest ways that you can learn guitar, or to know that something has stuck for you, is to try to teach it to somebody else, right? So in the Discord, again, we have people that are more advanced, some intermediate guys, some beginners. If someone's in there and they're saying, I really don't know how to switch chords. I'm not sure how to, switch from C shape to G to D, or I'm working on caged. What does that even mean? Like, how do I get that under my fingers? What are these shapes all about? If you already know that and you can explain that, you can feel better about yourself that you really have that under your fingers or in your brain, that you remembered it. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other ways on the Italian side that I've been doing that have been helpful. I think the other thing too would be to like learn in a lot of different ways. And we've been talking about that kind of a little bit so far in this live stream, but to learn in different ways. There's one thing, again, to learn by shapes. There's one thing to learn with songs. Writing stuff down and transcribing it is very different. Using ear training to learn intervals and tuning your ear and really getting your ear great is another way. One way we haven't even talked about yet, but again, is another way to immerse yourself, and I've talked about this in the past, is just listening to music. And I know it sounds crazy, but like, listening to music that you like and that are in genres that you already like, and then listening to music that are not in your typical genre that you listen to. Like for me, when I was growing up, I was into a lot of like rock, punk rock, metal. I'm still into a lot of that stuff, but I've branched out so much since then. Like, liking blues, jazz. And when I was younger, I like was never into country guitar. I was like, nah, this is not for me. Until I heard Brad Paisley, and then that kind of turned it around for me. I would see some metal guys also dabbling in country. I would listen to Brad Paisley himself, and I'd be so excited because he's such a great guitar player. And whether you're playing like blues or jazz, some of those licks kind of work in both genres, right? And you learn different concepts from learning different genres as well. So listening to music, I think, is really, really important, and really trying to understand, what's going on there. Another way that you can have music stick, or like, trying to learn the guitar quicker, is again taking some of the stuff that you have applied, not just soloing, but like actually trying to write songs, and just seeing what works with what. Now, writing songs and then listening to songs and understanding their song structure is also really important, because if you if you listen to a song and you're like, well, why does this work? Like, why do I love this chord progression? The easiest thing for you to do is take out your guitar and start on the low E string and try to understand what chords are what, then understand the chord qualities, whether they be major or minor, and just try to string them together. And then you'll start to learn, like, oh my God, like I really like a 1 4 5 progression. I really like, so on and so on, 2 5 1 progression. And you'll see like why you like those, and then you can use those types of things in your own playing. One of my favorite things when I don't have a guitar is to try to figure out chords from a scale. So, like, let's say I'm working in something, you could start really easy for yourself. You could start in something like C major and just try to understand all the different chord types that are in that key. Because, like I said, you're not going to always have your guitar around you, but you're trying to think of these other ways that you can always be kind of learning the subject that you want to learn, even when you're not at home, even when you're not able to do the thing, like play the guitar. So that's it. If you have a notebook and a pen or a pencil, and you have some theory, you can just do that. Theory, we kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but that's another thing that you can, again, work on your phone. There's tons of free apps. There's tons of free websites about theory. And at this point, if you are able to, if you want to Google a topic about music or about a chord type, a scale or a mode, there's a million resources out there at this point. One of the things that I can't even believe that we didn't talk about this yet. But one of the biggest things that I do every weekend, and I've been doing for like 5 years or so, we're over 300 issues, is I send out this newsletter. I'm actually going to be finishing up this weekend's newsletter today. It's called Six String Sunday Club, and it's a newsletter that goes out every Sunday without fail. That I take my favorite stuff I found in the guitar world that week, whether it be gear review or guitar story, or especially there's a ton of them in there, a lot of guitar videos, and I put them in this newsletter. I send them out every week. So if you're not signed up for that, just go to chasingsound.com and you can sign up for free. That's a great way to like get a lot of good lesson links in one spot every Sunday. So not only do you have stuff to practice on Sunday, usually goes out in the morning, but you also have stuff to practice, for the rest of the week. The other thing I was going to talk about, because we are on YouTube right now, is going and learning by watching YouTube videos. Again, it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube and just watch stuff that is, not doing anything for your life. But if you're learning guitar, there are so many videos out there. My newsletter is a testament to that. I have lots of content every week to put it out in a weekly newsletter. I'm talking about over 10 links at least each time without fail. And that's just my favorite stuff. So there's a lot of stuff out there. If you're looking to learn a guitar topic, there's tons of stuff on YouTube. Including videos on this channel, videos from other great educators on here. I'm a big fan of Ben Eller's channel. Big fan of Rhett Shull. Levi Clay has some great stuff on here. There's so many different people. I've linked to tens and tens of different guitar players over the last couple years, just on YouTube alone. Not even including like guitar players and bands, right? So, YouTube is another way to learn. I think that's at least 10 ways that we already discussed how you can learn guitar and how you can kind of like immerse yourself into the whole community here. Because there's a lot to learn and you can totally do it. If you set your mind to it and just kind of take all these different resources that you have available to you, most of which are free or most of which are kind of inexpensive. Most of these online lessons are $10 to $15 a month, and the amount of stuff that you get, the amount of content that you get, is super worth it. I actually have a comment here from an older student from a little while back. Let me see if I can add it here. So Vic is saying, one unexpected thing that helped me with my guitar learning another instrument. I'm learning drums now, and it's helped me with my guitar timing a lot. one I didn't talk about at all, right? That's funny you say that because even learning bass for myself, like when I was growing up and I was in high school, every once in a while you want to join a band, and guitar might not be open for you. That happened to me a little bit, and I had to play bass in a couple bands, and I'm not a great bass player, but there's so many benefits of playing bass. Like you definitely learn you learn to play a different way, and you can definitely apply some of that stuff to guitar just for root notes, knowing where notes are on the fretboard, playing in the pocket and having groove. I mean, is what bass is all about. Same thing when Vic is talking about drums. And one thing I'll definitely say for sure, if you play bass, is if you play bass and those strings are very heavy gauge. Once you go back to a guitar, man, your fingers are flying. So if you want a way to really strengthen your fingers, play bass a little bit, and you're gonna get good at guitar. You're gonna feel a lot better about guitar. So yeah, man, wow, that was a lot of different ways. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing for Italian is really helping me get back to some of the guitar practice I used to do, and think of it in a different way. So I think having a notebook or at least your phone down for a notepad. I mean, for the music stuff, it kind of helps with a notebook because you can write down chord shapes, you can kind of write down strings and frets. It's a little bit easier on a notebook sometimes than it is on a phone. But another thing you can do is if you're going to make like a database of this stuff on your computer, like I do, like I have some of this stuff in Craft on my Mac and my iPhone, is you can write this stuff down on your notebook, and then you can like even OCR it, get like the writing recognition into your computer, and then save that stuff on your computer so you can have it everywhere if you don't want to bring a notebook around everywhere. So yeah, I've been talking for a while now, for about, let's see, about half an hour. So just want to say it again, and then maybe we'll hang out a little bit more here. Is that definitely want to get back to more live streams because they're always so fun for me. People, even if they don't make it live, a lot of people catch the replay and they ask me about certain stuff and they find it helpful, or they almost even listen to the live stream as a podcast. I'm doing today's live stream because every September I get behind these guys over at Relay FM who raise money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and that's what I'm doing today and throughout the whole month of September. My campaign is super duper low. It's only $250 this month. I donate myself, to St. Jude on the regular, but this is just me trying to get money together for St. Jude to kind of add to the overall money that they'll donate at the end of the month. Like I said, Relay has already donated over $2 million to that great cause, and I couldn't think of a better cause than something like St. Jude. So if you have even a couple bucks and you want to donate, donate to St. Jude. The link is in the description here. And one thing I'll say here, especially, if you're watching this live stream, whether you donate or not, if you ever have questions about guitar, and, this is kind of like what I'm talking about when it comes to donating money. We do that because I think that's such an important cause, but, stuff like the Discord is free, right? It's all about helping other people. And that's why I think doing stuff like a live stream and just trying to help as much as possible is important, because it's important to help other people whenever you can, right? When you have the means. If you're in the Discord and you ever have any questions, I'm in there every single day. It's a little rough with work, but a lot of us are in there from time to time. The one thing I like about it is there's a bunch of guys in there, and unlike other Discords, which are just flying by all day, every day, and you don't think you can catch up, ours is pretty good, where we're pretty laid back because everyone typically has a job and has to work throughout the day. But we talk about guitar every single day in there. So whether you want to talk about gear, or you have a question about theory or technique, whether you want to post a video of yourself and get some feedback on it for free, obviously, I think you should do that. So that is, again, another way to learn guitar, and will help you out there in the Discord. And if you ever have any questions, like I said, I do the newsletter every single week. And if you have any questions there, you can always just reply to the email. I'll get back with you in like a day or so. or you can comment on the post if you're reading the newsletter on Substack, which is where I write and publish the newsletter. We haven't even talked about that. We talked about the newsletter, but like one of the things I like about Substack and why I moved to them is because they have a really good way of looking at your archive of newsletters. Here, let me see if I can actually go to it and show you it on the website. So let's see. Don't know if it's working right now. That's a bummer. Well, if you go to chasingtown.substack.com, you can look at all the past issues since I had put the newsletter on Substack, and there's a ton there. Let me see here. I don't know if I can, how far I can go back here, but probably quite a bit. I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing the newsletter for about 5 years or so. And back in January of 2022, so last year, I started putting them on Substack. So you won't be able to see everyone from all time, but you'll like be able to see every single newsletter that's gone out since January of 2022. And like I said, they go out every single Sunday. So yeah, check that out. I think it's a great resource. There's tons of information in there that like I say, I curate from YouTube and from all the different guitar sites every single week. I'm going to go work on that right now. I'm going to actually go work on tomorrow's issue right now, getting it all ready. Make sure you donate to St. Jude if you can. I really appreciate that. If you have any guitar questions, reach out in the Discord or elsewhere. I am basically chasing sound everywhere on the internet. And I appreciate you guys watching. If you ever have any questions, let me know. I'd appreciate it. We're going to get back to live streams very, very soon. I am going away for my day job pretty soon. I think in like 2 weeks, I have to go to Vegas, and then I got to spend some, sorry, tough life, right? But I have to go away to Vegas for work, and I'll see what I get to in there. Maybe I'll make a couple bets, bring back a couple of guitars. We'll see. But yeah, going to Vegas and then have to do some stuff here in my home state of New Jersey the week after that. But I will try to get another live stream in there during September with a whole new topic. And if I don't see you then, I will see you in the newsletter. So thanks for hanging out. I will talk to you guys soon.